And we're back. So we already have four people through to the top eight, and what we got to do is figure out the other four people that are through. So first, we're gonna recognize the people that can kind of take it easy this round, and it's not to, you don't want to underestimate what taking a break can do to just your overall like mentality and your just general well-being. How do you feel about that, Marvin?
Oh yeah, breaks help break things up actually and make it better, and so then you can refocus. So anytime you could use a break to help you refocus things, I would suggest doing it. I don't do it enough though. Maybe if I did it more, I'd do better.
I do think it's also especially advantageous in an event like this where the top eight is going to be a different format. It's going to be expedition, so you can maybe you just play a game or two on ladder, or maybe you get
Yeah.
ready for who you think might be your top eight opponent, and you can jam some games with teammates and get into expedition mode. But we still have eight people that are competing for the last four spots that are still going to be enthroned, which we've been watching so far today. So just to recognize the players that can take it easy this round, it's Almost, Prakalackin, A-Boss, and Male are the four people to advance from groups A through D respectively. And then the people that are still, in the thick of it, fighting for their last spots in the top eight, where there's Game Grump against Apple Chips, Stormguard versus Lights Out Ace, Spiffirific versus johnkkez, and Jez against Gosu. And we're going to be watching Spiffirific against johnkkez, and we're going to kick it off with the deck before we get down to the match. So both these decks are a little bit more common in the Throne metagame, but still just, want to go over maybe the slight like tweaks for the metagame or with the, Xenon being so popular, I guess. So if we can go down to that, then here we go. So Spifferific's Combre Relics deck, and I feel like they've been playing this for quite some time.
Yeah, this deck is your standard deck. I've been playing this all the time too. I've been playing this for months. In fact, got something similar from johnkkez actually. So, the key card here is Equalize to take up the have your opponent overcommit to the board and then have them sacrifice things. So I think that would probably be really good against the AP list. And this one has 4 copies of Pride Leader, which is, I think, a little different. Haven't seen 4 copies of Pride Leader recently. I think maybe it's just because there haven't been too many relics that you'd want to get rid of. But it has only 16 units in Desert Marshal, Diana, Grodov Stranger, and Sabretooth Pride Leader. And then, of course, you can get the Builder's Decree. So I think the key is to be able to ramp out early with the Pillars of Progress and the Gemstone, so that you can either wipe the board or get your plating out early.
All right, and then they'll be playing against johnkkez, who is on a Argenport mid-range deck, more Minotaur focused.
Yeah, this is definitely the Minotaur version, which I haven't seen too much on ladder. Because I've been playing AP, but not the Minotaur version, and I like this idea of having Black Book to kind of get rid of some of the spells that are going to be a problem, like the Equalize or or the Builder's Decree. So I think the Pit Boss is an important card in this. But what I also think though is the Golden Horn Security. There's only 2 copies of it, but since it does have Unleash, that is, you can get, if you can get three units down and then have them attack, they just buff themselves. And if you have any other units, it buffs all the other Minotaurs, which I think that's an interesting way of getting the damage in there. And of course, we won't talk about Tavrod because I'm with Team Not Tavrod, and we just are contractually not allowed to talk about Tavrod. So
Team the rest of the deck.
Yeah, team rest of the deck.
Okay, so walk me through these opening hands. How do you feel about them?
I feel like Spifferific should send that back. I think I would want one more piece of ramp in it, and I would probably keep if I were John Kez, I would keep it. Spiff, I would send it back. That's my take on it.
Yeah, one thing that's kind of interesting is you can actually be like a little bit aggressive if you want to in the matchup by playing the Garrote on turn 2 and just attacking a few times. That might not
Yeah.
be true with the Sabertooth Leader, so there's a little bit more ambush, there's a little more relic removal, but it's it's something you would almost not do in any other matchup though.
Yeah, I think the saving, like the fact that there is a crest in Spifferific's hand, makes me hesitate, perhaps, because like I've said, I think crests are really important and really good in filtering the crap off the top of your deck. And if you happen to see another pillar on the top, maybe that's better.
Yeah, so the problem from Spiff's side is that Pillar is really your only 2-drop acceleration, and I
Mhm.
think I could see putting kind of a premium on that because then you get to just play turn 3 Leader. Like the curve looks so nice with this hand with the Pillar, and that's kind of like in the top percentage, but only having 2 power and only 1 ramp, like it's not in the top percentage. So it's like it just
Yeah.
depends on what you're looking for.
Well, they decided to keep it, so um, I would trust Spifferific over whatever I would say.
For what's worth, my inclination was also to keep, but I think your points are very valid though. Like I think that make a lot of sense.
This in this version, they're also are playing with the Enter the Monastery, which after that got nerfed, because that was 3 cost, right? I
Yep.
think.
Yeah, it was.
After it got nerfed, you didn't see it much, so it's an interesting. It's interesting that they chose to go with that.
Okay, so despite the Pillar of Progress, we see almost like a light stumble here from Spifferific, where they're kind of just doing nothing this turn and then going to play 4 next turn, which is kind of just on schedule. But John Kez's deck is not exactly known for going super fast. Like, if anything, this is one of the more aggressive draws that John Kez can have, and it's
Yeah.
not very threatening.
All right, so just ramping out now.
Yeah, and
We just need 1 more power, and we've got the plating online. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
the vestige. They've got the vestige.
the vestige would be 9 total, right?
Yeah, 9 power.
Right. So the stranger though helps you get there sooner, and then even just a big builder's decree will do a lot of work. Like we already see Slay being used here. Like John Kez's is going to play Black Book here, which helps a bit. I wonder what's going to be taken though, because you actually like if there's a power off the top, you kind of can't
Yeah.
beat 2 9/9s either.
Right. Okay. One thing to note about Spiff's list is that they are running the Age-worn vestige, which usually in these lists are in the market, and so putting 3 main deck is an interesting choice.
Yeah, I think that had 2 considerations. So one of them is just the expected metagame of like needing to clear the board more often against Reanimator, perhaps. But the other one is if you looked at Spifferific's market, there was a lot of respect to the different archetypes. There was an Adjudicator's Gavel and an Aurene Scepter. Scepter against a deck maybe like Males, where kind of doing their best Scourge impression of just being able to lock out all the different spells that could be played.
This is going to be so good.
If it's called Equalize, it has to make everything equal, right?
Yeah, of course.
I like the decision to hold the Builder's Decree.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah, makes sense. Really.
Because you're just going to get 3 13/13s here.
And John Kez doesn't have any board wipes except in the market, so
Right, they have the market, nothing remains, but besides that, they have nothing in the main that can really interact with this.
they just really need to get
Oh,
into the
interesting.
market.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I can't do math. Yeah, they could only make 2. But yeah, just bringing the beat down now. Team, not your team.
Yeah.
needs to pull in some work here, but it's gonna be pretty difficult,
Keeping that. Oh, nice.
especially now that it's silenced.
Okay, okay.
I've got their position.
Your hope is really just to get to the market.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, or lifesteal, I guess. Or you just chomp with a.
Yeah, like you're pretty much so far ahead that you just need to lightly enumerate the ways things can go wrong for you. But the gemstone was left on top with the scout last turn, so
Gonna get Sword of Unity, and it's just gonna be over.
yeah.
There's just no coming back from that, I don't think.
Johnkkez agrees, and that's game one to Spifferific.
I think this is interesting because, like, for once we're covering a deck that I've actually like played a lot, as opposed to like some of these other ones that are just like too complicated for my tiny little mind to wrap around.
It's okay. Those other matches, you can feel how I feel in all the matches. Like I've never played either of these decks. It's difficult. I mean, there's just so many cool synergies in decks and Eternal, and I feel like a lot of people gravitate towards different strategies. Like whenever I play against you on ladder, I feel like it tends to be a little bit more mid-rangey, like doing something big if it has enough time and stuff like that. So when we're covering like Onis, it's like, oh, Marvin might be out of his element, but
Onis, who plays Onis? Not me.
But no, you've definitely like been around the block such that you understand what's like from the other side of the table, though.
Yeah, for sure. But just this deck, the Cambrai Relics deck, is just one that I've seriously played for probably 4 or 5 months in a row. Because it's just something I'm comfortable with. I enjoy it. I like, I win with it, so why not?
Do you think if you were playing in this tournament that you would play Cambrai Relics?
Maybe. I'm sorry, the voice of God said something. What did you say?
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
It'll be after this question.
I mean, I'm so bad at like figuring out what to play. I would probably want to play this, and then I would somehow convince myself that I shouldn't play it, and then that would have actually have been the correct choice, was to play it. So I just tend to try to pick something and then choose the opposite, and maybe it works.
Yeah, we'll cut to the bio for Spifferific before the match starts. So, that's a pretty cool avatar.
Let's see, top 4 at the 2020 Summer Throne Challenge. Or championships. I'm sorry, championships. And second in the Invitational Throne LCQ. Fun fact: CS grad. What is that? Computer science, I assume. Getting into software development. Nice.
Yeah. And you see those spring season stats, and also just very impressive. Like they happen to be a TNE Challenge number 9 winner, but if they didn't, I'm pretty sure they would have gotten the wild card slots. They're just always consistent. I feel like they're just always online, like crushing ladder. Like Spifferific and I are pretty much just opposites. Like I feel like they're always online, always grinding, and I'm like offline more often, but I'm always thinking about the game, and I feel like it's always interesting to see the overlap of these types of things.
What I enjoy about facing off on Spifferific is just always like trying to reverse engineer whatever deck that they are playing, because you're like, that's so good, and then having to like cobble it together, and it's usually on stream, and so then like people are like, oh yeah, like, wow, that's awesome,
Yeah, they're just so creative in the different decks that they're willing to try out, and I feel like maybe they take pride in the creativity process, or it's more just like not wanting to leave stones unturned. I imagine it's a combination of all of them, and why we always see them competing and making deep runs at the highest levels.
Yeah, 4 top 8s. I mean, just so consistent, unbelievable.
Yeah, like I haven't played in a TNE before. I typically end up on this side. I do like casting a lot, but I don't think if I were to play like 3 TNEs that I'd be a favorite to like top 8 1 or 2 of them. Like I like every time I see the list of players, I'm like, oh my god, this is like all players that could be at Worlds. Like they're just so good at the game.
Yeah, I really feel like we see the best of the best here when we're playing the TNE. And it's so much fun. I mean, I really enjoy the community events, and it's just something that I find that I think the people that play it are always fun and always friendly, and we have our little competitive things going on. That I always lose to Spifferific, but I always like try to beat him. But and it's just fun. It's a good time.
Yeah. All right, so let's see if we can cut down to the match. And it looks like... All right, what do you make of these hands?
I would. I think I like spiffirific's hand. I mean, even though it doesn't have the huge amount of ramp, it's got the coveted gemstone, which I find okay. Johnkkez is also can ramp out at least to the lunar claw. So I don't know. I think these are probably keepable. I would probably feel better if spiffirific had a crest so that you could kind of see what's coming up. Since, you know, a turn 1 crest is always pretty good since you're not really doing anything on turn 1.
Yeah, with johnkkez hand, I think if they do keep, they probably lead on the plating, but it is a very interesting question as to what you want to do there, because it is true that plating is still one of the better late game plays. Looks like
that's
they
agree. What they did. Yeah.
Yeah, so then it just ensures that you can play next turn Lost Scroll into a 4-drop. It's kind of funny though, because Sharp Tactician is probably not the 4-drop you were looking to play.
Yeah, especially against this deck. I mean, unless there was a Diana. Yeah, Diana would be good. Otherwise, it's not so great.
Taking the gemstone, I think I like that play a lot. It's kind of the main thing spiffirific had going on in their hand.
Yeah, and that just slows them down now, especially since there's nothing else. Now they need a power to get the a new beginning to fire, and this is depleted.
Yeah, so I like johnkkez has taken the turn off. That way you can play 2 Golden Horn Sentries instead of just playing 1 Golden Horn Sentry. You don't want to put yourself in a spot where you're trading off for, say, a single removal spell or a single unit. So this plays like a little bit minor. I would have played the seat first and then played a new beginning, because the times you draw a sigil, I'd rather my opponent not know that I draw a sigil, and then you don't have Defiance in your deck, so it wouldn't have mattered.
I feel like we have to board wipe, right?
I think it's worth thinking if you could be a little bit greedier. Like, you could play the Vestige, eat one of them, and it's like a 3-9, right? So then you can get on the way back. The other line is this one. So this one you try to silence. Well, that doesn't even work. So I was thinking, like, even if they draw Argenport Blueprints, they still can get the last unleashed copy that's in the grave or in the void. This one's setting up a Pride Leader though, which is also pretty good.
Definitely lowers the amount of damage that is going to be taken.
I would have liked seeing the Argenport Blueprints after combat, because here it gets destroyed by the Pride Leader ambush. So you want to do it all in one fell swoop.
Alright, Diana shows up. This is the card that I actually got to spoil.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, you never forget those, right?
Yeah, it was a good one. It was definitely a good one.
Mine was so for qualifying for Worlds early last year, they gave us each a preview card, and I got Iron Priestess.
Oh, okay.
And it felt really cool to qualify for Worlds playing the card that I got to spoil and play a little bit unorthodoxly in some of my matches. So
what do we make of both players on Cassandra's card back?
Yeah, I still haven't gotten mine yet. I'm trying really hard. I always log in for the rewards, and I'm watching streams all the time, and I still don't have it. I don't even know if you can get it anymore, but I'm always hoping.
I think you can, probably.
I hope so.
So johnkkez has an empty hand. Well, except for the exploit, which I think is pretty good at this point.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
It was kind of interesting. So choosing to sabotage last turn, you could have instead given your merchant revenge. That way you can set up some follow-up if there's a board clear. But ultimately choosing this line instead of just playing sabotage followed by the lingering, I always forget what it's called. The get a Justice Sigil scat one. Like lingering influence or something like that.
Oh. Yeah.
But ultimately not being able to give anything revenge, but having the Storm Hall plating is pretty sweet. And Spiffirific is still on 6 power, which isn't that common for the ramp deck. But this was kind of johnkkz's plan. Starting off with the early exploit, taking the coveted gemstone. So, wow, another exploit off the top, too.
That's so good.
Yeah, so this is interesting. So the Elias can just still die to the Shenra Speaks, but then it's still just game over because of the Stormhawk blading. Really well played by johnkkz.
Yeah, and also johnkkz is like an expert on the Cambrai Relics deck. I mean, because I got the Cambrai list from him when I was playing it, and I mean, because he had been on that for months as well, and then once the new set came out, switched over more to the AP, I think, list of what he's playing now, which is kind of interesting how some folks kind of pick a lane and they stay in that lane, and then change things only when you have to. And in this case, I think the expert knowledge that he has of how to play the relics really helped him out here.
Yeah, so let's look at johnkkz's bio. So yeah, they're also a previous Worlds competitor, so definitely Worlds caliber, and it'll be great to see them again this year at Worlds. So in the U.S. military for over 10 years, so appreciate you serving. Yeah. And enjoy solving the puzzles in these card games. Yeah, so I feel like everyone has different philosophies for how they approach card games in general, even at the highest levels. So some people view them as solving puzzles. Some people view them as art, like kind of a display, like an expression of like what you're trying to do. Ironically, I actually view it the second way. Like whenever I read a deck list, I'm like, what is this artist trying to say to me? Which is kind of like interesting. How do you kind of approach these types of things?
Well, I'm more I'm a net decker, really. So I think I kind of approach things in a way that's like, I'll look at somebody's deck and see like, okay, would this be something that I can handle as a pilot? Because there are some decks that I just cannot handle. I can't pilot. And I think I have to look at, is this a very complicated deck or is it an easier deck? And to be perfectly honest, I'm not a very complicated person. So when things get too crazy on board, it becomes a challenge. So if I look at a list and I'm like, okay, well, how did this person approach it, and am I able to handle it? And so that's how I kind of look at them.
It kind of reminds me of maybe like playing chess, where you feel more comfortable with certain openings, and then you can try to figure it out from there.
Yeah, it's just like there are just some decks and some decks that people do, like Lord Perth. Sometimes Lord Perth on TNT, he will create a deck, and I'm just like, dude, I cannot play this deck. I don't understand it. It's just how it works.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
I think even the best players have some amounts of like range or comfort for them. Like I prefer playing the decks that are either aggro decks that have some good like late game, or some more controlling decks that have some aggressive starts. But what I'm really bad at are the decks that are just like, okay, if I play mid-range grindy mirror, what's going to happen? Like, I don't want the game to go like 30 turns. Like, I'm not about that.
I'm all for that.
Yeah, like everyone has their pros and cons. And like, I'm like sometimes trying to play the best deck. Sometimes I lean a little bit more on comfort, but sometimes I do end up with those decks. And if I'm in the situations, I'm just like, there's too many things. Like, what do I do?
Too many options.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm a rat trapped in a cage, or like, how it's too many options.
Yeah. So we'll see if we can cut down to the match. As we mentioned in the past, we need to make sure that the play draw lines up appropriately. So we could be stuck here for the next 3 hours or something. So luckily I have Marvin here to join me for this.
I don't know if you all remember, but there used to be a time when we would actually go in and watch them queue up, and then we would go into their match, and it would then they would end the match, and so then we'd have to go like queue back in, and I don't know. Yeah. It was like some ETS at some point, I think, and it was like it was probably like a 15 game where it was just like they kept going and trying and it just never actually happened.
Jeez.
It's sad.
Yeah, ETS is before my time, but it sounded like a really good,
Yeah.
piece of eternal history and time.
And that, ETS was how I really got into doing competitive stuff. I mean, I never
Oh.
used to. I played Magic, but it was always just like really casual type stuff. And the ETS is really what got me into playing tournaments like these because it was fun. You're playing against the top players that are playing the game, and that's how like you fill out your friends list in the game. It's just like by playing people that you're like, wow, you're just awesome, and chatting with them and stuff.
Yeah. All right, looks like we're good to head into the match. So, who do you like? Who do you think's gonna get game 3?
Well, this is really tough. I feel like johnkkz's deck is probably just maybe better suited against the Cambrai, and Cambrai has just not been as good as it was with this new set. So I'm kind of leaning with johnkkz.
I'll take spiffirific then.
Okay.
But I also like their opening hand a decent amount here. Like if they're able to draw one more power and don't get disrupted, I feel like it has like really good flow.
And the Silexes are can be really helpful in terms of just like changing the card advantage in this game. Since Cambrai Relics doesn't have them, it makes it that extra card draw can be all the difference there.
Yeah, well, one thing that is a little bit tough for johnkkz is like they kind of have a few not complete stinkers, but like cards like Slay or Sharp Tactician just aren't really at their best in this matchup. And you do have, market access and ways to kind of like deal with the piece of cardboard in general, like the fact that it's not lining up exactly against what Spifferific's doing. But I feel like Spifferific's deck kind of like can kind of I guess like set the pace for the match, like
Yeah.
what they're trying to accomplish.
All right, so johnkkz shipped that back, which I can understand. I mean, it didn't have fantastic plays,
Yeah,
especially since it had the Sharp Tactician, right? And that doesn't really do a whole lot.
yeah, I'm not sure if I love johnkkz's hand, but I think on the second 7 you just gotta keep it, but it's not exciting.
And I'm kind of surprised, Spiff kept this hand.
Yeah, it had the pillar again, so kind of harking back a little bit to game 1, where if you
Yeah.
just draw the extra power, don't get exploited, and then you're able to just play Enter the Monastery. It's kind of everything you want to be doing.
So what's the I can't remember the name of the card where you discard it and play.
Sire's Eyes?
No, it's the spell, 3 cost. I can't think of it now.
Oh, Mugging or something like that?
No, when you discard the card to play a Justice Sigil. Anyway, it's not important. I cannot think of it at the moment. I'm sure
okay.
chat. Privilege of rank, yeah.
Oh,
that was
yeah,
something
yeah,
that I
yeah.
threw into this list at some point as well.
Yeah, that card's always pretty sweet.
Name that card by MLNTN. Yes, if you are interested in naming that card, MLNTN created the game for it.
Yeah, it's kind of like Wordle, but with Eternal cards.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Right.
so
I guess we should comment on the game, right?
yeah, no, it's fine. So, what are you looking to Builder's Decree here? What do you want to stop next turn? Probably one of the 5 drops, but which one?
I feel like it's the pit boss. Yeah, I feel like the pit boss is what you want to.
It's tough though. You still don't have like the cleanest answer to Tavrod. Like you would have to Shenra speak it, I guess. But then like the black boss is gonna get you anyways. I don't know. It's kind of a difficult situation.
Yeah, I think you just don't want Tavrod to do his things because that's like 2 cards. That's like getting a Minotaur and getting a weapon, and that card advantage is just can be insane.
So this time I like johnkkez playing the blueprints and passing here. Wow, happens to
That's
the
a
top deck, a
pride
pride leader.
leaders. That's
But
awesome.
but I liked it because no matter what, your next turns are a little bit spoken for. Where if you draw power, you're gonna play a plating, but if you don't, then maybe you draw a 2-drop to go with your pit boss. So just the way things are lining up, you don't have the luxury of just like sitting on the blueprints as long. We actually see not uh, the pride leader though. I think just trying to set up an equalize.
Yeah, I think it was either that or maybe hoping that johnkkez would break the blueprint relic, but not if
Wow.
you only have one unit.
And this huge turnaround. So being able to draw the power for the storm hall plating and just being able to crack in a few times.
Yeah, I think the key here is that spiffirific has just not been able to ramp out as fast as needed.
Yeah, and even if Spifferific's able to end the board, the pit boss is doing work, just pumping up the next relic weapon or unit coming up. I think that might actually be game. Or
Could be
close to
game.
it.
Yeah, I don't see how.
Well,
I mean, I guess you could play. I mean, you could play
12 plus one. Yeah. You could play the vestige just.
the vestige just for the.
Yep.
But it's still not a good spot to be in, really.
So there was a Stormhall plating on top of Spifferific's deck, where if they had an undepleted power, they would be able to clear the pit boss and the Stormhall plating on johnkkez side because of the Pillar of Progress, but had to put it to the bottom. And this is kind of a desperation new beginnings.
Yep, GG's.
It looks like you were right. johnkkez advancing to the top 8 of the Invitational.
Congrats to johnkkez for that.
So, Voice of God, is that it for the round, or? Yeah. So it looks like that's it for the round. So those advancing through to the top 4 who played matches this round, besides johnkkez, are Voice of God. Who is it? Game Grump, Lights Out Ace, and Gozu. So that makes the top 8 almost Praklakin, A-Boss, Male, Game Grump, Lights Out Ace, johnkkez, and Gozu. So we're going to cut to a break. We might shuffle around the casters and stuff like that. And yeah. And
well, before we go to break, we just wanted to mention that TNT has been just put on a tournament. It was in Pauper this time, so all just commons. And we're kind of refiring these a little bit to get them to come out more frequently, especially when we have like a draft open, because it's draft. Not a lot of people like draft. So on our team, at least, we play these tournaments. So we're gonna probably fire up another one, and maybe not this week, but next week. And not sure what the format will be, but we play a bunch of different formats. Some of them that we've made ourselves. So. It's always a good time. So if you're interested, you can, I don't know, join our TNT Discord or just message me on Discord and I can hook you up.
Yeah, and we're not necessarily sure who's going to be casting the top 8 yet or whatever, but be sure to follow Marvin the Imp, especially on Twitch. I tune into his streams as well. You can follow me on Twitter. I don't stream nearly as often as Marvin, but I guess you could follow me on Twitch too if you want. And we'll see what the top 8 holds. We might have a slightly longer break while we try to figure out some logistics, but stay hydrated and be about 10 minutes. But I'm really excited for this. We'll see which of these 8 competitors gets to get the ticket to Worlds.
Yeah, can't wait.